Addiction, sadly, is an age old problem, but the numbers of people struggling today are simply terrifying, whether that's opioids or alcohol or meth, etc. A new TVO original documentary takes a close up view of it here in Ontario and at some personal struggles to overcome addiction. It's called Come Clean. And joining us now are the filmmakers. In Chelsea, Quebec, Derek Romer, and in the beautiful Blue Mountains of Ontario, there's Neil Graham. Gents, it's great to have you on a program. I saw the documentary. It is absolutely terrific. I got so many questions for you, but let's start with this. Derek, why addiction? Why did you want to focus on that?
Well, frankly, it's topical. I mean, before the pandemic ruled the headlines in the media, back in 2016, when I first got this idea, the opioid epidemic was what was in the headlines constantly on the news, in documentaries, investigative journalism. And just by chance, I came across an article in the Walrus called Oxytown, and it was featured the Chatham-Kent region of Ontario in the story. And so I kind of pitched an idea about a documentary about addiction to Neil, because for me, it wasn't solely about, oxy or opioids. It was about why there was such an increase in addiction in general. And so I pitched it to Neil, and we contacted Westover, and Neil had his own personal reasons for being interested in addiction.
Okay, Neil, pick up the story if you would.
Yeah, well, we always tend to think of addiction as happening to the other, someone other than us. But in my case, I had issues with my back, and I was given painkillers, and I took a very small portion of the painkillers that I was prescribed, and I became addicted. And I didn't know I was addicted until I went to come off the painkillers. And then it was a very difficult process of weaning myself off. And it had not been for the iron fist of my wife there to sort of guide me through the process, I really don't know what would have come to me, frankly. And I am not someone who's typically prone to addiction. So it was a real surprise. And it gave, I think in life, sometimes we have these little windows, of opportunity into seeing a problem. And for me, this was the opportunity I had to think that this can really, it's not just a cliche, it really can happen to anyone.
Well, Derek, you decided to take your cameras into the Westover Treatment Center in southwestern Ontario. And I guess let's start here. Why that place for this subject?
Well, it was mentioned in that article in the Walrus that I mentioned earlier. And so it was a place to start. It was just like, let's go down and see if there's a story here somewhere. And Neil contacted Westover, and they were happy to meet with us. And over the course of many discussions over a year and a half with the staffers there, we came up with what would become Come Clean. And, they eventually offered us full unfettered access to their facility. And that was a huge thing. Just for that reason, we picked Westover, because they were willing to help us in any way they could to make this film.
Now, of course, Neil, when you're making a documentary, access is key. And I wonder, when they said to you, yeah, sure, bring the cameras in to focus on people who are at the worst chapters of their lives, dealing with untold misery, by all means, bring your cameras in. How'd you react when you heard that?
Well, I was pretty happy. I mean, access is all in documentary, as we know. Any kind of journalism requires that access. I mean, one of the biggest challenges we had with Westover is the logistical issue of trying to figure out how to do it. Because one thing about the process of getting into Westover is clients only know a week or two in advance when they've been accepted. So unlike a typical documentary where we get to know someone, we film something, and then you take it to broadcasters, in this case TVO, we didn't know any of that. So we met people once. We drove all over southwestern Ontario in my old Jeep, met everyone once, and then the next time we saw them, they were giving urine samples to prove that they were clean to get into rehab. So it was incredibly intense, thrilling and daunting equally. It was an amazing process and challenging in the best way.
Anybody say no to you, Neil?
There were only a couple that did. There was a person, I think, who was involved, and this was a surprise because I thought, you asked 50, 35 are going to say, "Are you kidding?" But in our case, I think there were only one or two, including I think one person who wanted to do it, didn't do it because they were involved in a custody battle, and there were some other issues that they couldn't do it. But everyone else said yes, and they created a group, the designated group specifically for the documentary. So we just embedded in the documentary, stayed in Westover with everyone else for 3 weeks straight through, to show them, because it didn't seem fair that we would be able to leave and come back. That seemed, if you're in, you're in, and we're the kind of filmmakers that are in for the long haul.
So you guys were all in. Okay. Derek, tell me this. I presume when you are shooting people who are undergoing, as I suggested a moment ago, some of the worst misery of their lives, you have to take particular care in the way that you shoot that. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, my big concern was impeding their recovery. I mean, that was a huge thing for me, was doing something that would somehow impede their recovery. And so we were always very conscious of that, both of us, and always talked stuff through with whoever we were going to film and made sure that they were cool with it. And surprisingly, they always were. I mean, there were very few times where anybody said, no, I don't want you to film this part.
Neil, can you pick up on that? Why would people be open to, or at least what did you take away as the reasons why people would be open to having you share with thousands of people their misery in living color?
Well, there's an old adage, I think, Steve, that goes that everyone wants to tell their story. They just want to make sure it's to the right person. And I think when people meet Derek and I and they realize that we're serious and this is what we do, and I think there's a degree of comfort. A lot of, documentary filmmaking is not, I mean, I'm horrible when it comes to things technical. Thank God Derek can bail me out mostly. But really the point of being a documentarian is making people feel comfortable and making them feel that they can tell these stories. And as soon as that process gets going and the more comfortable they become with us, things just come out, and people will tell you things that they often didn't intend to tell you. That happened a few times in the film. And part of it is just being there and being open. And after a while, you're no different than the wallpaper. You're just there, and they just open up. It's an amazing process, and every time it happens, I'm shocked and thankful.
Yeah, Derek, can you pick up on that? Because I've talked to documentary filmmakers in the past who have used that expression. Once you're there so much, you just blend in, and after a while, people forget the cameras are really there. And I always find that hard to believe, because if you're melting down and in tears over one of the most miserable moments of your life, how do you not notice that there's a film crew standing 5 feet over there? Did you really blend in?
I think so. I mean, there are times when you really realize that that's the case, and it's incredible. It's incredible as a filmmaker to experience that. And I can't really tell you how it happens or why it happens. I mean, I think ultimately it's about trust. You hear Hollywood actors talk about having trust in their directors, and I think it's no different with documentary filmmakers and their subjects. There's a level of trust that has to be achieved for you to become part of the wallpaper, and for them to give you the deepest, darkest parts of their lives sometimes.
Right. Okay, let's see some of your work. We want to show a clip now of a fella named Ryan. And I guess we should say you never use last names in this documentary. So this is Ryan, and he is a person struggling with addiction. So, Sheldon, if you would, let's roll this clip.
What do you think your chances are of kicking this?
I don't know. I don't think that there's a equation for figuring out your chances of kicking your addiction. I can honestly... I don't know. It's gonna be hard. Probably the hardest thing I'll ever do in my life.
He was right about that, Neil. Tell us a little bit more about Ryan. What's his story?
Well, Ryan's a real favorite of mine. I mean, part of it is his age. He wasn't yet 20 when he went into Westover. But he's someone who, typical kid, small town, bored, not much to do, started smoking, marijuana. And then it escalated, and all of a sudden he became this sort of drug kingpin in this little town. And what's astonishing to me about Ryan is that, they always say that in the formative years of development, those teenage years, that the brain is so vulnerable to the effects of drugs. And yet somehow Ryan, despite the amount of drugs he's taken, which is astonishing, he still has this, this incredible mental acuity. And this awareness that he has of what he's doing and how it's destroying him and his family, it isn't enough for him to stop. And that struggle within him, which is really featured in Ryan's arc through the story, is I think really what makes him so compelling.
Derek, I need to ask you how emotionally invested you get in, for example, Ryan's story. And do you ever find yourself getting to the point where you want to just sort of grab him by the shoulders and say, come on, Ryan, we're all rooting for you. You got to do this. You got to get through this. Does that moment happen for you as a filmmaker?
100%, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember specifically having a conversation with Ryan in this moment, but there are times, sure, when you just want to reach out and help as best you can, reach across that divide of filmmaker versus subject and just talk to them as a human being, as a person. And we've done that all the time in this film and other films. I mean, and I think that getting back to that level of trust, I think that helps build that level of trust also between the filmmaker and the subject.
Neil, how about you? Is there a line over which, as a filmmaker, you should not cross, but which you're tempted to because, after all, you are rooting for all of these people?
It's a really complicated and then sometimes almost a dark relationship that you have with your subjects, because you oscillate between these two poles. One of you is a human and one of you is a filmmaker. And as the filmmaker, when you see things is going to be great on screen and it's going to help tell their story. And then the other part of it is, you want to just, I'm a father to a daughter who's just a couple of years younger than Ryan. And, you want to reach across and grab him, and stuff him in the backseat and take him where he can get help. And so it's very difficult going back and forth, but it's a strange relationship because all of a sudden you're editing the film and you start to see the people as almost characters in your film, at least equally as much as they are people that you've met. So it's a very complicated dynamic between filmmaker and subject.
Mm-hmm. Derek, are you able to stay in touch with people even after the filmmaking process is over and done with?
Sometimes. I mean, some of the folks that were in Group 1313, as soon as they left, they kind of stopped being in communication with us. And some of the main subjects are still in contact with us, and they reach out to us on social media, email. And, it's up to them. We've invaded their privacy for over a year. And so if they want to continue contacting us and sharing their story with us, we're happy to listen. But it depends.
Mm-hmm. Neil, were there any people that you chronicled in your documentary who, after it was all said and done, approached you afterwards and said, gosh, you know what? I have such regrets about cooperating with you for this. I feel like you ripped my guts out and showed it for all the public to see, and I regret doing it.
You're always waiting for that call, but no, it doesn't happen. Oddly enough, it doesn't happen. At least in this case, it didn't. And we tried to, part of due diligence in being a documentarian is being honest about, this thing that we do. And, people are going to see it. People are going to run across it. Your name's not going to be attached to it, but people that you know and work with will recognize it, and then the word gets out. So, part of it is just being frank with people. And, it's again, it's just it's a very strange, a very intense relationship. And just to further what Derek was saying, when the filming is over rather, often people reach out to us, but at that point, we don't probe them with questions about their addiction or anything else. We've done, they've given us such access over a year and a half. If they want to call and just chat, it's not our business to probe anymore. So we do respect that once the process is finished.
Gotcha. Well, we're going to hear from some of the participants in your documentary in just a moment. And I guess, Derek, I'll just ask you to finish up by telling us what insights you came to about people with addiction that you think might just go against what people in society typically think.
Well, it's incredibly difficult once you leave treatment. I think a lot of people think you go to treatment and you're cured. And the reality is the real work starts once you leave. And, in the film, Westover's staffers say, we only ask you to change one thing, and that's everything. Where you work, who you hang out with, where you live, who your friends are, how you behave. And that's like an insurmountable task for most of us, just to change one of those things. So that was a real revelation for me of how much work it is to recover.
Well, I got to hand it to you guys. You chronicle it beautifully in this documentary. Derek Romer, Neil Graham, thanks for coming onto the agenda and sharing some of your views about this really extraordinary piece of work you two have done. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, let's now talk to some of the people who know this story way better than others. They are featured in that documentary, and we'll just use their first names because that's how they're introduced in the doc. In southwestern Ontario, we welcome Chris and Annie, and also Laird Brush, who's the executive director of the Westover Treatment Center. And we're grateful to the three of you for coming on to TVO tonight. Okay, Annie, start us off. Why would you agree to be in this documentary?
Well, when I was contacted with the date and everything, and I was told that this is what would be happening, there's a lot that goes through your mind because you really want to get in. And in the end, I think what really did it for me was the thought that, if my story could help one other person, then it was worth it. Because, there's a lot of us struggling with different stories. So I was just ready to give it all and let it go.
Makes perfect sense. Chris, how about you? Why did you agree to be a part of this documentary?
Some of the initial interviews that they did, they came into our house to do them, and they asked if I wanted to participate, and I said, sure. So I kind of got pulled along with the whole thing as they started it.
I guess we should explain. You two are a couple, right?
Yes.
We are married, yes.
There we go. Okay. Laird, let me get you to pick up the story from this point of view, and that is, what do you think separates your approach at Westover from other addiction centers?
Well, I may be a little biased, but I think we're the best at what we do in the entire country. But Westover uses a combination of approaches to treatment. We use a cognitive behavioral model. We use group therapy. We use peer counseling and one-on-one counseling with addictions counselors, and of course the 12-step model. And I think that blend of treatment approaches makes us unique and is a big part of our success.
And let me do a quick follow-up with you, Laird. Your program's, it's less than 3 weeks long, right? 19 days, something like that?
Yes, it is, yes.
You're asking people, or you're encouraging people, you're helping people to overcome issues that they've had in their lives for years, and you get them for 19 days. How does that work?
It is a very intense program. There's no doubt about it. Length of treatment, I don't think is necessarily translate into success. Westover is a very intense program, but no matter how long you're in treatment, eventually you have to go back out into the world, back to your life, and try to maintain your sobriety and live in recovery after that. So it's a matter of taking the tools you learn while you're in treatment and putting them to work. So you can be in treatment for 3 months or 6 months or a year and still have to go back to the world, right? And I think our program is very intense. I do ask them, and I think I say this in the documentary, we only ask them to change one thing, and that's everything. And what they come here to do is to change the way they think, the way they feel, the way they behave, where they work, where they live. All of it needs to be considered, because whatever they were doing up until coming into Westover obviously wasn't working for them. And that's a huge thing to ask of anyone, and I understand that. But it's very intense. We're very good at what we do, and I think our combination of approaches is what makes us so successful.
I remember when you said that line, and I could just imagine all the people that you were talking to at the time, who all have their demons, all thinking, oh, the only thing I need to change in my life is everything. Sure, I'll get right on that. That'll be a breeze. Okay, Annie and Chris, I got to ask you, when you first heard him say that, The only thing we want you to change is everything. Annie, what did you think?
At first, I was like, I can do that. But your people, place, thing, everything was my husband's, where I lived with my husband. It became very overwhelming very quickly. But at the same time, I like a challenge. So yeah, it's words to live by. It's quoted multiple times because it resonated with everyone. I think everyone that hears that, that's kind of a, ooh, okay, this is real.
Annie, it's so unusual for me actually to be asking such deeply personal questions to people on this program because we don't normally do that. But given that you have sort of exposed your life in this documentary for so many people to see, I guess I'm going to use that license to ask you a bunch of questions I normally wouldn't. So let's start here. What was your addiction?
My addiction? Entering rehab, it was alcoholism. I was on a very quick path to death. So alcoholism, but I have a history of all kinds of, obviously, food addiction. I realized while we were there that I was like a drug addict who might not have ever done how do I put it? I was a cocaine addict who'd never done cocaine, but I know if I touched it, I would have been gone. I've had gambling issues in the past. I am an addictive personality, so I'm not going to say I have one addiction. I'm an addict.
Gotcha. And Chris, how about you? What was your addiction?
Alcohol.
And when I ask the question, do I say what was your addiction, or should I be more accurately saying what is your addiction that you are still struggling with? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, it is my addiction. I mean, it's a disease I'm going to have my entire life. I'm not drinking, which means that is my treatment for my disease. So, but it's still there. I cannot go back to drinking because I would end up in the same situation that I was in before I entered treatment.
And you didn't like that place?
No.
How many days have you been sober?
I've been sober just over 19 months now.
19 months. Okay. And Annie, how about you?
Oh, I'm coming up on 24. I did have a relapse. So April will be my 2 years again.
Congratulations to both of you. Let's show a little bit of the work that you allowed those filmmakers to do. Here is a clip of Annie reading a letter to her addiction. Sheldon, roll it if you would.
Dear addiction, I'm not sure how you crept into my life. In all honesty, I think you've always been my life. Food, alcohol, gambling, drugs, there's no one thing that was worse than any other. You were comforting, fun, and there for me when I needed to hide from the shame of my life circumstances. You also slowly killed me, took away any self-worth I may have achieved, and turned me into a solitary, lonely, desperate little girl.
Annie, that's a very blunt, honest, intimate letter. Why did you write that letter?
It was one of our assignments, actually. And it was, I think, fairly close towards the end, where we wrote a letter to our addiction. It's been a while. I don't remember what week it was, but, and I took it and ran with it because I had a lot of harsh words to say, or, yeah, it was absolute true emotion coming out. So.
But Chris, I think one of the things we learn in this film is that as much as you can't stand your addictions, you also, at some level, you love them as well. What was your letter like?
It was very similar. The group that I was in when I went to Westover, a few of us read each other's letters, and a lot of times there's that common thread all the way through them. But at the same time, like Annie said in her letter, it is something that is slowly killing you over time.
Right. Laird, let me get you back into this. Obviously, writing the letter is part of the whole program at Westover. What other techniques are you using to try to get people to confront their addictions?
Well, getting back to changing everything, what we try to teach our clients is how to live a life without any mind-altering substances. So the letter to the addict is really a way of, it's a Dear John letter to the disease. It's kicking the disease to the curb, and it's reaffirming that we don't need substances to live and to move on. We do a lot of things. It's very much a psychoeducational approach to treatment. We teach clients different coping mechanisms and defense mechanisms. We have them look at the behaviors, the old behaviors that were causing their lives to be so miserable, and changing those into some more positive behaviors. Again, a lot of peer support, a lot of group therapy. Yeah, it's hard to we jam an awful lot of information into 19 days, so it's a real challenge for the clients, and that's what I think comes across in this film. This film isn't about Westover; it's about the journey that people like Chris and Annie have taken, and the courage and faith that it takes to be able to make those wholesale changes. We can never forget that what we're fighting in terms of addiction is a disease that wants to kill us. And that's why when I say change everything, when you look at the alternative, it might make that choice a little simpler, not easier, but simpler. So by learning the life skills, the behavioral skills that they learn in treatment, putting them into practice when they leave us and go back to the world, hopefully that allows them to maintain their sobriety and have a better life, have some happiness.
Laird, I notice in the movie, you're a no-nonsense guy. I mean, if people slip up, if they have a relapse, if they take a drink of alcohol that they've snuck in that they're not supposed to do, they are gone. Why are you so zero tolerance in your approach to that?
Well, again, we're at Westover. Westover is an abstinence-focused treatment center, so our goal is to try and teach our clients to live a life without any mind-altering substances. So people are here, again, we're fighting a chronic progressive fatal disease. For someone to use while they're in treatment doesn't just put their recovery at risk, it puts everybody's recovery at risk, which really means you're putting other people's lives at risk. So it's not tolerated while you're here. Relapse can be part of the journey of recovery. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. Once they leave, if someone relapses that and learns from it, gets back into recovery and living an abstinent life, then that's really what we hope for. But to use while they're here just puts everybody's lives at risk, and I won't tolerate that.
Well, let me pick up on that subject of relapse, because Annie, you did tell us just earlier that you've had a relapse since leaving Westover. And I guess, well, let's start with this. Why do you think that happened?
Oh, that's an easy one. But actually, no, not easy. It was in the end, it's no one's fault but my own, as far as I didn't reach out for the help I could have. I didn't make the calls that I should have, and done everything that I have been taught to do, that I knew to do. What had happened, I was just, to be completely honest, I was tired of being told how strong I was. The circumstances of Chris and I's relationship that comes through in the documentary, right? He was drinking, I'm sober. And, I was making it, but it was like everywhere I went, it was like, oh, you're so strong, I could never do that. And, oh, you're so strong. And I was in a group and I was, the same thing. These women just kept saying, you're so strong. And I broke. I didn't want to be strong. And I literally did not want to be strong anymore. I was tired of fighting. I was tired of everything, and I consciously made the decision not to call somebody, and I consciously made the decision to pick up a drink. And Chris had said to me a lot, I just can't communicate with you. I miss you. I miss my wife. So I sat there chugging back a drink going, Is this what you wanted? Because here I am. Is this who you want? And then that was kind of the last drink I had, was that day. Because then I was like, okay, you know, it was I was tired. So
I totally get that, Annie, but I'm wondering, you're going to face that situation again at some point in the future where somebody's going to say to you, my goodness, I'm so impressed with how strong you are and how you're dealing with all of this, et cetera, et cetera. How will you be able to make a different choice next time you run into those set of circumstances?
Well, my life circumstances are different now, because then I was battling living with an active alcoholic, right? Trying to keep a marriage together, have a marriage, if you will. You know, I realize that, yes, I will have moments in the future, and I have an amazing support system out there and everything. But at that time, it was just the number one support that I wanted and I didn't have, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And it had been a long, what did I have? I had a year and a half of sobriety at that point, and I was just tired of, I was just plain exhausted. So, but I also know what it feels like to have had that relapse, and what I felt like, how angry I was at myself, like that I let somebody else, you know, let myself get in that mind frame based on somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, I never felt guilty about it. But it was a healthy anger. It was a healthy realization. And honestly, I felt like crap. And I don't ever want to feel like that again. Like, I just don't. It's just
Gotcha.
not worth it at all.
I guess we should point out here that you two did not go into this program at the same time. Annie, you went first, and then Chris came later. And Chris, I guess I should ask you, are you a little, this is going to sound like a weird question, but are you a little bit surprised that you two are still together, given that Annie sort of got clean first, but you were still a mess at that point? Are you ever surprised you're still together?
Actually, it was her relapse that kind of spurred me to get my life together, because it kind of showed me up close just the harm that it was doing, not only to me, but to other people. And I didn't want to lose her.
That's nice. That's a nice thing to hear. I think she'd like that too, by the looks of things. Laird, it's almost impossible to do an interview these days without asking about COVID-19, so here comes that moment. I presume doing what you do in the midst of a global pandemic is even harder than in normal times, yes?
Yes.
How so?
Well, a couple of things. First, the pandemic, as everyone knows from media reports and whatnot, a lot more people are using substances since COVID-19 started. Alcohol sales have gone up dramatically. The opioid crisis is worsening. So there are a lot more people using substances, but that hasn't really translated into more people looking for treatment. I think the pandemic is, with isolation and loneliness and some of those unpleasant things that people have had to go through, that added stress, more people are using substances. But right now, those substances are working for them, so they haven't made a decision or haven't found the need to come and get help. We expect that to happen as the pandemic wanes and people realize they're still using, even though those stresses and pressures aren't there anymore. What we did find here at Westover, that when the pandemic started, a large number of treatment centers in the province closed their doors in response to COVID-19. We never did. And we started to see clients coming from further away, outside our normal catchment area, where we would get clients from Thunder Bay and Sault Ste. Marie and Ottawa and places all over the place where normally we would regularly get them in southwestern Ontario. So we saw a lot of people coming from further away to get help. Right now, because we tried, again, the center has stayed open and safe through the whole thing, and we're determined to stay that way. We require our clients to prove that they don't have COVID. They have to provide a negative COVID test before they come in. And recently that's become very difficult for people to do because they've changed the requirements around testing. So The number of people that are out actually getting through the door, some are testing positive, some have COVID, some aren't able to get tested. So that's reduced the number of people that are coming in. That's been a negative impact of the pandemic. A lot of positives have come out of COVID-19 in terms of treatment, though, too, because we've transitioned a lot of our programming into the virtual world and on Zoom platforms to be able to access people that can't get here for whatever reason. But yeah, I expect to see a real surge in people seeking addiction and mental health help as the pandemic starts to wane and people start realizing that those coping mechanisms, that the alcohol or the drugs that I was using to cope with the stress and the hurt and pain and isolation of the pandemic, even though those things aren't there anymore, I'm still medicating, and that's become problematic.
Right.
So
we've got about a minute left here, Annie, and I wonder, there's every likelihood that there are a bunch of people watching us right now and who will watch the documentary next Tuesday who are struggling with some kind of addiction. And you've been there. So I wonder if you would give them some advice based on your own experience as to what you think they ought to do.
It was something that was said, and every one of our counselors kind of brought this up, is how far would you go for your addiction? What would you have done for your drug of choice or whatever? You'd walk a mile in the rain, you'd walk a mile wherever to get what you needed, and it didn't matter. And so, you know what? This is your life. This is your health. This is everything. You are more important than any addiction. So just think, what are you willing to do to get there? Because it's worth it. It really is.
I can see that in you too. And I know anybody who watches this documentary is going to be rooting for you guys forever because you're great. So there you go. We want to remind everybody that the world premiere of the TVO original documentary, Come Clean, airs next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on TVO. And of course, will be available to be streamed on our website, tvo.org thereafter. Annie, Chris, Laird, it's great of you to spend so much time with us here on TVO tonight. Great good fortune going forward. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
thank you. It's been a pleasure.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.